Hello and welcome to Heart of the Matter, where once again I'm joined by Amed for another podcast. And it's great to have him here. And I'm so honored and blessed. And uh, he has his own channel, which is Planetary Intelligence, and that's over on YouTube. And I highly recommend that you go and take a look there. It's incredible work that he's doing. And yeah, I'm looking forward to tonight, looking forward to the conversation and just to let it flow and just talk about all manner of things as we go through this podcast for the next hour or so. So welcome, my brother.
Thank you, Kelvin. Always a pleasure to be here with you, and always enjoy our talks. I enjoyed our last talk and received some wonderful feedback when I mirrored it on our channel. Pleasure to be back again. Thank you for having me.
Anytime, brother. It's good to have you here.
Yeah.
Good to have you here. So yeah. So how are you?
Yeah, I've been good. Living life as always, just making sure I meditate, making sure I keep my mind clear, making sure I'm looking after my body, and eating properly when I should be eating, fasting when I should be fasting, and still in the pursuit of knowledge of the esoteric and the Hermetic teachings, still learning more. I've been kind of starting to kind of decode some of the Quran, which has been interesting. But I've also kind of, been learning more about the zodiac and its relevance to our psyche, its relevance to our bodies, and the astrological zodiac signs as well. It's funny because we always get, the 12 disciples, the 12 imams, the 12 hours in the day, the 12 hours of night. So that number 12 seems to pop up everywhere as well, in our mythology and in so-called institutionalized religion. So those have been interesting ventures. Listening, been kind of going into female psychology recently. If there's any women out there, it's like, I'm just interested because I think male psychology has been covered quite a lot, and female psychology has been the least explored. And I've always had the inkling that a lot of the mind control is mostly aimed at women. In my view, the more I've kind of been digging deeper into the mind control, of how much of the subliminal messages, the marketing in general and consumerist marketing tends to be mostly aimed at women. I would say 80% of it is aimed at women, and the other 20% at men. But it's fascinating. I've been finding that fascinating. I've been kind of listening to some of Michael Tsarin's talks on female psychology, the female Illuminati, just kind of, again, expanding my own knowledge as well, and reading up about it, because I don't like to be a follower of anyone. I always feel like when you're on that path of individuation, you shouldn't become a follower of anyone. The only thing you should follow is your heart and yourself. You follow that. That's the only thing to follow. There's nothing else to follow. That's why I feel like it's so important to make sure that you don't fall into that trap of following. Yes, I subscribe and I listen and I keep attention to certain people and great thinkers that are online at the moment, but I don't look at them with rose-tinted glasses, or and sadly, I see it a lot within the truth community, or I don't know what to call it. People who are on the pursuit of truth, kind of become this sort of fan. You see these fan bases, like they're fans of these people, and that's the danger of when you're going in this sort of realm on the internet, and you're finding people who you think you're resonating with, but don't have your best interest at heart, you know, who are kind of still stuck in their own trauma and unresolved shadow integration, you know, and always pose as some sort of saviors for others. So yeah, there's a danger. I'm going off on different tangents here, but these are things that have kind of been happening with me, realizations that have been coming up recently. But yeah, you know, again, just discernment, have discernment, and make sure you don't fall into the following. Yeah, just follow your own heart. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's very interesting, because I like to be what I call a free bird, and yeah, I mean, you know, like you mentioned Michael Tassarian, and there's Santos Banashi, people like that, you know, great people, you know, they've got a lot to give to the human family and stuff and all that, but you know, I don't necessarily go and think oh, I'm going to move to Brazil now, you know, and set up camp with them all and stuff like that. For me, it's like you, I just want to be that free bird, and you know, and it's about me. It's about finding who I am, or I keep saying who I am. It's about what I am. I like using that word, what I am, and where am I. So that's important to me on my journey of individuation, and just getting to the bottom of the trauma. You know, like you understand very, very, very well about that, you know, and there's a lot of stuff. You know, I come here to share and just say that, you know, to the people that are listening, you know, at the end of the day, it's about the darkness. It's not all about the light. And there's stuff that needs to be healed and stuff, and so that we can move forward and like be whole, you know, and to, like you said, to enjoy life, to live and to love, you know. These are all important things. So yeah, that's just what I wanted to say, really. So
beautifully said. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing with life in terms of finding that balance. My yearning is to be like, you know, that fool who's in the tarot card, who's carefree, you know, but also wears his heart on his sleeve in that sense as well. Like, you know, no agendas, no ego, no nothing, just this is who I am. And you know, I would always like, and if there's one thing I want to achieve in my life, it's to be like that fool, but sat under the shade of a tree on a beautiful summer's day, you know, where it's really, really warm and hot, but in that beautiful shade, where the light is just kind of glistening through the leaves, you know, and having that balance of, like you said, light and darkness. You don't want them to be too contrasting, and that's what I mean by that shade. When you're in that shade of that tree during the day, you're sheltered away from the really strong heat of the sun, but you appreciate the warmth. But you're in that shade, you're in that sort of shadow darkness, you know, but it's comfortable. It's not scary, because you can see everything, you know, because the light is kind of still there. So that's that. I think it's what we talked about just before, the in-between, you know.
The in-between. That's just about to add that. The in-between. That's how I see it, you know. And that understanding I got through because I, you know, obviously, as you know, I like my music, and you know, I've done I like my DJing and music production, and I, you know, have a keyboard, you know, and you see the black and white notes, and you know, it just came to me, like you said, these things as they do, they just sort of come to you. It's a deeper understanding of things, you know, and that's what I sort of saw, you know, is that we sort of see black and white, and it's like on the keyboard, you know, and how the melody can be played sort of in a nice way, or it can be all chaotic and, you know, and stuff like that. But it's between the black and white notes is the in between. And that really, really, really got me, that, you know, it's almost like, yeah, that's what it's about. You know, it's about the in between. It's about not seeing in the black and the white, you know, it's and it's all there to be discovered. And that's something that really resonates for me, that as I share that. So yeah,
it's like yeah, it's to be that in between. It's like a seam, you know, when you're kind of I'm sure like a tailor would understand that sort of thing, when you're seaming two fabrics together. You want to be that hem, that seam in between, that's kind of creating that reality. And that's why we, you know, when you look at the yin and yang sign in the center of it, if you pay attention enough, it looks like an S. And I think that's what's always been meant by the mythology of, or the allegory of or should I say the literary of what the serpent means in the garden. You know, it's that in between. But obviously they've kind of institutionalized religions made the serpent into being Satan or the devil, which again is another confusion, sadly, as well. Satan is not the same as devil, completely both different things. But just, yeah, that in between. What is the in between? You know, what is that moment in between? What is the in between of me picking up this pen and writing poetry? You know, what is it that brings out those words in that moment and creates that flow of poetry? Or when you are playing that music on the keyboard, you know, what is that in between? For me, some people may call it spirit, you know, they're into the sort of the spiritual side of things. If you're more into the psychological, you'll call it the muse, or the creativity, the creative factor. And it's actually the in between is what's between. You see, Carl Jung talks about how the muse, the inspiration, is when the man or woman has their anima integrated, or animus in the woman integrated, because it's easier for women to access creativity, by the way, more than males, because the muse is the feminine. It's the feminine archetype. And that anima then comes through into the sort of spiritual, inspiring the brain, because even the word spirit is in the word inspiration. You know, you have in spirit because you're in spirit when you are inspired. And when that gets expressed, it gets expressed with whatever tool you're using. And that's when the masculine comes in. The masculine gives it order, gives that creativity form. It gives it a shape. And that's all that is, basically. The feminine is the unseen and the masculine is the seen, you know, in that sense, when it comes to creativity. And it's when those two are in perfect harmony, can the most beautiful art be expressed, you know, whether it's music or painting or poetry or, you know, any of the arts that also help inspire others, you know, so others can be in that spirit, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's a lovely way of looking at it. Really lovely way of looking at it. So that's a incredible thing, because it's almost like before that it was like a mystery to me. And when you start to sort of see something that goes beyond the black and the white, you know, you know that you'll be taken on a journey it's hard to put it into words, but these experiences that we have, which is all part of the journey, you know, these things that show us who we really are, and not what we've been told we are, or what we think we are, even to ourselves even. So that at the moment, it's really resonating with me. There's the in between all the time. And you know, at the moment, as we've been talking behind the scenes. I don't mind talking about it. It's about me with my anxiety, you know, at the moment and stuff, and that, and I can look at it in a very, very negative way, and stuff, all that, or, you know, I choose to sort of see a deeper understanding of that, you know, as we discussed earlier. I'm reading a book at the moment that's helping me at the moment, so which is good, and it's giving me that grasp, you know, and it's almost like, he said the anxiety is that a word that he used for anxiety was exit, and that sorry, excuse my cough, and it is like that, because when you're in that real place of real anxiety, you just feel you want to escape it, you know, you just want to, it's a fight or flight response. And yeah, so to now sort of more or less understand about, it's not what happens to us, but it's what goes through us. You start to see things in a different way. And you know, one of the things that I've been doing to help me with that is to focus my attention onto my just breathing, and that's not about sort of breathing in and out very deeply, or, you know, or doing this meditation where you have to cross your legs, and it's not about that at all. It's just focusing on your breathing, just normally in and out, just normal. And it almost, as you do that, it feels like you're connecting with your body again. And then it's like it may be going on around you, but you're just there observing it. So that's just another thing I wanted to share. So
yeah, I think that's, again, that's what Krishnamurti, anyone who has ever looked into Krishnamurti's work, is it talks about, it's becoming the observer. You know, it's the same with look, we're here to experience, to have the human experience, you know, to experience ourselves as a man or a woman on this plane. And now that we are here, we're going to have those emotions, you know, and that would include things like jealousy, and that would include the other sort of lower forms, or should I say lower vibrational states, because it is part of that shadow, it's part of the darkness, you know. You've got to experience all of them to know what it means to be a human being on a physical plane, to experience these things. So one thing he talks about is exactly what you said. It doesn't have to be deep breathing, doesn't have to be, and this is the thing, a lot of people think meditation's sitting in some sort of contortionist pose to reach this higher realm of spirituality, which is all nonsense, by the way. I don't see any form of, that's all outward aesthetic. That's aestheticism. Aestheticism is all to do with what looks good. Oh yeah, I'm spiritual, so I want to sit in this beautiful pose of symmetry and just like look so spiritual, you know, which is a load of, you know, a load of rubbish. You can be sat in any comfortable position. You could be lying down, as long as that intention is there to meditate, listen to your breathing. But it's the same thing. Observe those emotions. If you have an emotion like jealousy, for example, you know, don't just kind of do away, oh, that's bad, I shouldn't be feeling that, or make yourself, and then get your thought forms and your ego to start judging it. That's where most people go wrong, and they go back into negative behavioral loop patterns that are destructive to their relationship with others and with themselves. So sit with it, sit with that emotion. I remember when I had my anger, so I'll speak a bit about my, like, just as you did with your anxiety. You know, I had a lot of anger issues when I was younger, huge, massive anger issues. And I realized that if I didn't break that loop, because it was something that my father passed down to me through my grandfather and his father before then, and so on. So it was an ancestral thing going down the male bloodline, so to speak, or the male line, should I say, the male line. And I realized, hold on, I don't want to be like my father. You know, my father was a tyrant. Let's just put it that way, without going into too much detail. But that taught me what I didn't want to be. And that's why I eventually got into martial arts. And we talked about this, I think, in the previous talk, the soma, the psychosomatic. There is something in intense exercise that allows you to express the unsaid, because there are different ways of expressing and releasing trauma. Releasing trauma through words is one way, but it's not the, it's one way, but it's not the only way. And it's not the only way to rid yourself of the entire trauma. Because that's just a mental projection, an expression in word form. And that trauma needs more than that to express itself, to release itself, to release from your body. So, you know, feeling is one of the most important things, to feel it. And sometimes to feel it, you have to strip away the thoughts. And when you're doing intense exercise, you have no time to think and distract yourself with armor to hide away the trauma, the armor for the trauma. Funny how they rhyme too, armor and trauma. And, you know, to strip away that armor to get to the core. And sometimes it could be expressed with a heaving puff or a cry of pain, you know, that your body is really pushing it beyond its limits. And you have to push it beyond its limits, because there is the devil inside us, or should I say, you know, the evil inside us that wants to suppress, that wants to, and that's the dual form that we live in, the separation that wants to separate you from yourself through your trauma. And as a collective, we can see that today. So yeah, it's sit with it. Any emotion that comes up, sit with it and observe it. See how far it takes you. How far you're willing to go. You know, how far you're willing to brave that feeling. But not as in like, oh, you got to ride it out. How most people say, oh, you just ride it out. No, it's not about riding it. Don't ride it. Observe it. There's a difference between riding it and observing it. Observing that it's there. What is it doing? Come out from the experiencer, because you are experiencing it anyway in your body. But come away from the ego that's experiencing it and trying to give it a sort of thought form, and come out of it and go, all right, I feel that. This is what anxiety feels like. Okay, let's see where this goes. And just sit with it. Meditate with that. You can meditate with emotions. Not a lot of people talk about that, but there's something that I do myself. Meditate with an emotion.
Yeah,
have you ever pondered those things? You know.
Yeah. I mean, I think at the end of the day, it is when, like you said, these emotions come, and you know, sometimes they can be very, very you know, controlling in the way that we feel and everything on our daily basis. But I mean, one of the things for me, you know, naturally you just will do anything to distract yourself with this, or distract yourself from all the feelings. That's what I was taught by certain psychologists back in the day. And what does that solve? It doesn't solve anything. I think it's far better to actually just, like you said, to actually sit with that feeling and observe it. But I tend to, what I do now is observe it with the breathing as well, and that helps, rather than to try and exit, you know, the uncomfortableness of whatever it may be, whether it's anger or if it is anxiety, which I think that's all connected. You know, anger, anxiety, it's all part of the, you know, it's all, yeah. There's just so much to psychology, like you were saying earlier, to try and delve into, you know, the deeper works of all of that and stuff. But you know, it's very interesting. I find it very, very interesting. And then starting to realize that you start to become your own sort of psychologist for yourself, really, and get a grasp of your own inner workings and stuff. And you can start seeing just patterns, you know, certain things about yourself and all that. And you think, you know, I don't particularly, you know, it's not like you beat yourself up or anything. It's not about that at all. It's just that you sort of see it for what it is and just think, that's just not really me. It doesn't really serve me. You know, it's not what I want to really be here, you know, with my brothers and sisters. It's just, so it's just all these little things you start to see, all these little patterns and stuff that you wouldn't have even given thought to. So it's just a very interesting thing that Carl Jung brings as well, you know. Like I said, I've got a few of his books to get through and stuff like that. I'm going to find that quite interesting and stuff to read, start getting into that, delving more into that as well. So
essential reading. Carl Jung is if there's anybody seeking who's a true truth seeker out there, Carl Jung's work is the starting point. You know, there are, you know, obviously Freud sadly kind of sold himself out to the establishment towards the end of his career, but some of his earlier works were really good. So I never throw out the baby with the bathwater, so to speak. Again, it's coming back to being discerning, right? Because I know a lot of people will go, oh, but Freud was part of the. No, he wasn't part of the establishment in the beginning. Did you know that he was friends with Carl Jung? That Carl Jung was, you know, that Freud mentored Carl Jung and Wilhelm Reich. So just, you know, a lot of people are quick to kind of dismiss Freud straight away, but you know, his earlier works are fascinating, and you know, he even exposed the whole thing about how Judaism didn't stem from what Judaism claimed it to be. He said it stemmed from Egypt, that it's much older, the teachings. So, you know, is that pro-establishment? I don't think so. So again, be discerning. So yeah, of course, he had you know, his nephew who was related to him, who you know, worked with the establishment, as we know, and you know, there are obviously people related to him that are kind of pro-establishment, but you've got to be discerning when it comes to psychology. But ultimately with psychology is to learn as much as you can. So Carl Jung is a great one to start with, Wilhelm Reich, Otto Rank, you know, Heidegger, some great thinkers there, but those kind of Helen Miller, Naomi Klein, great you know, women actually who have actually kind of delved into the female psychology as well. So, you know, be discerning when you approach psychology, but in the end, it is you, like you said, Kelvin, it's about you becoming your own psychologist.
Becoming the master of your own house, basically.
Yes, that's what it's about.
That's what I've learned, you know, that it's about that, becoming the master of your own house. You know, and it is almost like magic, isn't it, as well, you know, because it is a form of magic, because we've had this other type of magic, you know, it's been put into us from a very young age, you know, and stuff, and then all the way up through to school and stuff, you know, and then into our teen years. And so there's it is like you said, it's a lot of stuff, you know, that accumulates within us. And I find this a very interesting time. You know, at times it can be not very pleasant, you know, especially the anxiety, but hey, I know that it's okay, you know, it's all part of the process. It just is part of it, you know, and that is fine for me. So it's all good.
I think as well, don't be afraid to reach out. I think that's the thing as well. I think there are a lot of people who are, you know, like us in a way, on that path of individuation. But of course, you've got to be careful with who you choose as your friends and who you associate with, because they become a reflection of who you are. Because you know, they may have toxic traits, so obviously be careful. But it's not to become this sort of it's not to become this sort of hermit that is
Yeah.
kind of living throughout their lives a lonely life with hardly any human contact at all. That's not a way to live either, you
No.
know. Otherwise, why there be so many other human beings in this world? You know, what's the point? If you want to be a hermit, fair enough, go into the mountains and live your life that way. But as long as you're here, you know, do reach out, go and learn, because some of this knowledge needs to be put into practice and experienced. Otherwise, how are you can have all the theories and all the knowledge, obviously go through that, get the knowledge, but also experience. Don't just limit yourself to just books all the time. Experience is just as important, and you experiencing it as well is just as important. Who knows, by you going out to experience it, you may actually further that knowledge and say, hold on, they haven't even discovered this, because I've just experienced this and I've used some of those things they've told me about psychology and these tools. I've used them, but hold on, I just found out something different that I don't think anybody else has realized. And by doing so, you are serving yourself and your reason for being here, the meaning for your life. You're giving your life meaning in that way, but also you're helping humanity progress forward, you know, as a whole, by bringing your nugget of wisdom and knowledge and contribution. You know, again, I always go back to Henry David Thoreau, who always says, like, most men and women live quiet lives of desperation and go to the grave with the song still left in them. You know, what else are we here to do but to sing our song, our unique expression that I am, you know. And most people don't individuate, sadly. They're just soulless degenerates who just don't want to raise their consciousness in any way or become an individual. They just want to become part of the herd. And and so that's why I stopped concerning myself with them, and just focus on myself in a way that I can be of use, not only to myself but to others as well, and be of service to humanity in my own way, whichever small way that is, or big way. You know, who knows what life unfolds. I'm here to be surprised. You know, otherwise life is bloody boring, isn't it?
I like surprises. I love surprises. It's and that's I like those sort of things. When those sort of things happen, you know, surprises are a great thing. Yeah. You know, and you know, it is like you said earlier, you know, when you're going through a period and not quite understanding what is going on in your life and stuff and all that, you know, I am one of these people. I mean, I find it hard to reach out to other people. You know, I sort of battle with it on my own, you know, and stuff like that. But I'm learning to do that more now, which is a good thing.
Yeah, pride can be a dangerous. It can be a friend, but it can also, there's healthy pride and there's unhealthy pride. Right. Again, pride is a dualistic emotion, I guess. If you want to call pride an emotion, it's a dualistic one in itself, because there's a good side to pride, and it's like any emotion, even anger. There's, you know, people can say there's negative anger, which comes in kind of rage and fury that destroys and causes violence, that leads to violence and acts of mutilation or whatever. But there's also the other side of anger, which is righteous indignation, you know, where you have a right to express the anger, to wake the other person up and say, this is not okay, you know, but with love, obviously. Like when I say with love, with firmness, because the anger can be quiet. It doesn't have to be loud. And this is where people think there's, oh yeah, but they're still shouting. That's that. Like, no, I'm talking about an anger that is quiet.
Yeah, I'd say
silent,
firm and polite. I like the word firm and polite. Just being firm, but being polite with it. Like you said, it is finding that middle ground, isn't it?
Yep. And also expressed, and it will be, that anger will be expressed through the eyes. It doesn't need to come out in a loud form.
mm, mm, mm,
You
mm,
know, and I think that's the key to expressing that anger when we're trying to express ourselves through words and language.
mm,
That's the best healthy way of, or taking that anger, because if you feel okay, it will fall on deaf ears, even if you were to express it in that way, firm and kind. You can redirect that energy of anger into something productive for yourself to build yourself up even more. You know,
mm, mm,
meaning if someone triggered you to be angry because they did harm to you, right? But the ego wants to harm them back. Your ego wants to harm them back physically, just in the same way they harmed you, because that's called revenge, right? We call that revenge.
mm,
But rather than doing that, the best form of revenge is not to give them that attention,
mm,
but actually go and use that for yourself. Use that energy of, you know what, you've pissed me off so much. I'm actually going to take this pissed offness, this anger, and I'm going to build myself to become even stronger with it.
mm,
Whether that will create you more money, or whether that will give you more, a form of an art, or give you an extra skill in your life. Use it. Use that anger for something productive.
productive.
Yeah, where I see most people sadly use it for destruction. So they will take it out on that ex person, then they will start to abuse their bodies from anything from overeating to drowning themselves in alcohol or whatever else to numb themselves. You know, and that does nothing for yourself or the world or for anybody. You know, but again, easy for me to say with where I am right now, having gone through the baptism of fire, so to speak. But hopefully by speaking about these things, hopefully one day somebody who's younger maybe perhaps, or hasn't kind of made sense of it, of these emotions, can listen to our conversation and be inspired and enlightened by it, and that will save them the hard road that so many of us have to face to master in the end, so that we can become individualized and self-realized.
Yeah, I mean, this is it. You know, it's lovely to come on here, you know, and just share, you know, and stuff. I mean, obviously there are certain things that you don't want to share right out there, but I don't have a problem with sharing this because I know it's here to benefit, you know, my brothers and sisters. I'm quite happy to be here tonight to share and to just, you know, you have to be careful. Obviously, it's like you were saying earlier, you know, you have to be careful what you share and who you share with as well. I think as well, you know, like you said, trust your intuition, you know, and where you share your heart as well. I think there's nothing wrong with having what I call a guarded heart, you know, and yeah, that's fine. Yeah, because at the end of the day, I've learned, you know, sometimes you can share something with somebody and it just seems to come back on you. No matter how you may express something, they will still see it in their way, even though, and you just think there's no point going there because it's going to escalate into some sort of, you know, confrontation, you know. So, you know, with yourself, like with you, I know I can share whatever I want to share behind the scenes with you, and I don't feel judged. I just don't feel judged. I don't feel, yeah. I haven't felt that for a long time, but with you, it's different. I don't feel judged. I just feel loved and accepted, and that for me is a great thing. And also that I'm learning to love and accept everything about my being and what's within me as well in that process as well for me. So yeah.
Yeah, well, that is what true shadow work is about, you know. It's understanding what the shadow is. And actually, you know, when we talk about the shadow, it's really important to, because I'll be soon, for those who are watching and who get this, I'm going to be doing a presentation soon in video format on the Planetary Intelligence channel on mind control and psychology, and kind of culminating the knowledge I've got through various other teachers, and bringing those and fusing them together, which I find has helped me in my life. So watch this space. But yeah, in terms of like the shadow, when we look at I mean, one thing you can do is go and find the Jungian dictionary, right? Really recommend it, just to get the Jungian dictionary, just so you know what the shadow is about. And you know, the shadow is the part of you that's repressed into the unconscious, right? Just so it's more for those who are still new to the concept of shadow, or has never heard a proper definition of it, at least. Because I hear so many people talk about shadow work, and yet they don't do it, and it just confuses the heck out of me, going, well, why do they talk about shadow work when they're not even doing it themselves? It makes no sense. So obviously there's people out there who's heard the idea of shadow work, and they think they have this own version and definition of what they think a shadow is, when actually there is a clear term that Carl Jung has put out there for you. But some people are too lazy. They put more emphasis on researching the conspiratorial aspects, but never go into the psychological parts, because it's boring, or I don't know, for whatever reason that doesn't interest them enough to go and analyze their own psyche. And that is the real work. If you want to really break free from the system and the conditioning and the mind control, that's where you got to go first, before you go out into the other part. I mean, it's fun, yes, you know, going into things like Tartaria and all these other new things that are coming out, that's been hidden from us. But what good is that if you haven't at least gone to the fundamentals of what it means to individuate and truly find who you are? So the shadow is the part of you that's repressed into the unconscious. It's usually something like, for example, cowardice or egotism, laziness, or unrealistic fantasies, arrogance, love of money, possessions, you name it, just things like that. All right. Sex addiction, anything like that, right? And you are able to see your shadow very clearly in others, the people you meet. That's why I'm saying be careful who you make friends with, because it could be your shadow that's making friends with them and not you. So one has to, you have to be careful. Again, it's to do with discernment. Again, know thyself. When you know yourself enough, you know who to make friends with. When you don't know yourself enough, it could be your shadow that's making friends with people that you shouldn't be making friends with, because you could be in that same loop cycle of destruction and have friends that are not going to be there to support you in what you do in your life, that are going to only put you down, and you're going to fall back into that trauma again of feeling loss and anxiety and lonely. And you know how some people are just surrounded by so many friends, and they're the most loneliest people. So as long as you don't confront yourself with your shadow, it will remain in the unconscious, and it will lead your life without you even knowing it, because you're actually the shadow itself. And this is the thing people just don't understand when they approach the shadow. So you're not in control of it, and it will really express itself mostly in the most unexpected times in your life. When you're caught off guard, it will express itself. Trust you me, it will.
So that's what's happened to me.
It's happened to all of us in some form of way, for sure. You know. So you know, one of those examples is you will suddenly lose your temper. and and you'll be possessed by your anger. You'll have no control over it, by the way. And so look out for it. I mean, in your dreams, for example, here's an example. In your dreams, your shadow will appear as a sort of creature that will attack you, like a wild animal, or a burglar, or some sort of primitive character, right? And it will be hostile since it's being ignored and forgotten. And that's how it will express itself. And it will be hostile to you in your dreams because it's been ignored and forgotten. So it's the opposite. Essentially, it says it's the opposite of your ego, which is how you view yourself. It's the opposite of that. Another interpretation that I've heard several times from Michael Tsarian's talks, and obviously this comes from the Jungian and Reichian and Rankian sort of way of thinking, is the bridge between the ego and the self. The shadow is the bridge between the ego and the self. That's why shadow integration is so important, because once you've integrated it, you can get to yourself and become yourself. So that's the calling. So yeah, we tend to sadly project our shadow onto others, and I have sadly seen that happen to me recently by other people who've projected onto me their shadow, and that means we see a part of ourselves, right, in them, but it's the part of the self, right? But because the shadow, you are the shadow, you've repressed it, so you are projecting the insecurity of that onto them. So this is when you're confronting like an authentic man or woman who has individuated. You'll project your shadow onto them, or you would also project it on others as well, since and because we express our shadow involuntarily, because that's really important. It's involuntary. It's not voluntary, right? Because you're not aware of it, and we will do things behind even our own backs that will support our enemy. And when people are shadow possessed, they turn into the very thing they claim to oppose, and that's the thing we're seeing play out today. You fight what you become. I'm fighting the system and the government, and people who haven't individuated become the very same dictators that they hate in their own life, in their family, within their family and their friends, or within the ones who they're intimate with. So again, be aware of these things. So, accusing others, they'll also see people are extremely, these kind of people who are unintegrated with the shadow will be very aggressive. They'll accuse others of everything that they themselves do wrong, by the way. So we can clearly see this in any anti-movement. In any protest movement, anti-movement, anti-this, anti-that, right? When you're shadow possessed, you're not able to see the other person as an individual with their own emotions and ideas, right? You can only see them as the enemy who needs to be eradicated. Because you're trying to eradicate something in yourself. Does that make sense?
It does make sense, because you're saying all this, and like I said, I had a self-realization, again, from reading that book that I discussed earlier, which is, I'll say what the book is. It's for anyone that's interested, it's Alchemy of the Heart by Michael Brown, which I think is a fantastic reading for me, and it might benefit other people as well. But there's one bit that I got from it that I found very interesting, was that obviously when we're born, we go through like these 7-year cycles, and that in itself is very, very interesting. The 7-year cycles, it goes from is it emotion, I think, is it, to mental to physical, you know, so you go through the different 7-year cycles. But one of the things that I got from it was, okay, so you have your parents, and obviously they themselves, so they've been through their trauma, and you know, and the way that they've been brought up by their parents, you know, and all of their life that they've gone through certain things. They go to education and get all the get indoctrinated by all that sort of stuff within education and all that as well, you know, and then they, you know, have their own children and so on. But what I found was interesting was that, or what I got from it, which I'd love to share, is that basically is that they sort of oppress you, and you then grow up through your, you know, through your life, and you're doing your, whatever you're doing through life and your flow of life. And this was the real shocker to me, and I saw it very clearly, was that they are the oppressor. Then you yourself don't even realize that you start to oppress yourself, and you then become the oppressor to the people around you. And I'll tell you what, man, that just really hit me when I realized that, you know, because I've seen that in my own life, and that's a real, I remember just having to say, I'm sorry to the people that I've affected, you know, that have been around me, that I've affected, and also myself even, you know, it's almost to let go of that and let it go down the river. Because once you had that actual self-realization that you yourself become an oppressor, it's yeah, for me, that was a real suppose, yeah, just a realization. And,
yeah, no, thank you for sharing that. And I am well, I was one of those people when I was much younger. I was no different, and this is why I've had to go through how do you say it, hell. You have to go through hell and back to get to where I am now, because you have to make those mistakes and go through that suffering until you realize, hold on, I've become no different than the tyrant I promised not to become. And that's how deeply embedded it is, because like you said, we go through the first 7 years of life. If that starts, especially in that period, do you know how hard it is to undo that? Because that's wired into you. You have to go into the blueprint that is you to change that, because it's so hardwired into your blueprint. That takes a lot of deep digging and undoing and rewiring, because like you said, the emotional state of the first 7 years. Yeah, because even Rudolf Steiner, so those who are not aware of the Rudolf Steiner and the Waldorf movement of education for children, he had a very sort of, again, a very kind of Jungian kind of approach to educating children, saying the first 7 years should all be about play. Don't interrupt the children. Give them some form of structure, but then give them non-structure. That's all you can give them. Like, let them go and play, and let them play with each other, because that play is them learning their emotions and their interaction with other children. So they're able to learn how to socialize naturally. You know.
Yeah.
And it's only when adults come in, and I mean that word adult, you know, adultists, the adultists, it's not a cult, by the way. It's funny how it has the ULT in there, which is like a cult.
Interesting.
Yeah, that come in and interrupt that. Don't you do this, that's naughty. And it's like, you have no idea. The moment you've done that, you could have interfered with their with how they relate. And I say this especially to mums, because like I said, I've been looking into female psychology, because the mother has so much say in those first 7 years of life to that child. In fact, that onus and responsibility is on the mothers. The father doesn't have as much influence as the mother does. Let alone the 9 months in your womb, and where you are in yourself as a woman, psychologically, spiritually, you know, and that information that's going on through your head, which is, by the way, feeding the womb. Yeah. By the way, they're learning from that point, from the moment of conception, that is going into the womb. No doubt about it. You know,
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah. Just I'm just sorry, because again, that speaks about that in that book that I was reading about the womb, and that things are going on within the womb. It's not when you come out of the womb, it starts in the womb. So if the parents are having, I don't know, rows, and then they end up splitting and all that, that affects the baby within the womb. And a lot of people can't get their heads around that. But I know and understand that because of my certain situations within my family and my family history. So I can relate to what was going on when I was in the womb because of stuff that my mum told me. But that's private. But yeah,
of course, and it should be private.
Yeah.
But yeah, for sure, the mother does affect both the boy and the girl with how she interferes with their growth, especially, you know, those pivotal first 7 years. And by the way, don't think that doesn't affect their sexuality, because it definitely does. We have the possessive mother, and we have these stories as well. People don't realize that they're there even in the Disney films. You know, it's like a friend of mine recently, she posted on YouTube. She has her own YouTube channel called Literature World. Very much recommend her channel. I'll see if I can remember to put a description and a link to hers as well on my channel to this video. But she was talking about the Little Mermaid and how the Little Mermaid has her father. Have you noticed there was no mother in the story of the Little Mermaid? There's what's his name? Triton, you know, like Poseidon, the god of the sea. You know, he's got the Triton, and it's just him. You don't see the mum, you don't see the queen anywhere. It's just the king, right? But where's the mother in all this? And actually, who you see is Ursula, who's the sea witch. You know, which is the actual terrible mother. She is she's everything that represents the terrible mother, the possessiveness, the signing your soul to the devil type of thing, you know, the contract, because she has to give up her voice to Ursula, you know. And this is the thing about daughters not speaking up to their mothers. You know, I see so many of that, by the way, the daughter mother dynamic in sort of women who've and I speak that from experience from a previous, you know, my last relationship was, you know, found it very hard to confront the mother, to stand up and have her own voice. And sadly, a lot of daughters have that issue. The other one is with the boys. Some of these mothers repress the sexuality of the boys, doesn't allow it to be expressed. And that's why we get these perversions as well within men who are not correctly orientated sexually. I'll leave that for the listeners to interpret the way they want to, because I don't want to go into too much depth. It requires a lot more of a deeper conversation with a lot more referencing to show you that is the case. But I'm not going to go into that here now, because it's a whole subject matter on its own when it comes to that. But yeah, the womb, the importance of the womb, and the importance of the mother's role in raising the children, and you know that there are very few healthy mothers about, and sadly it's all due to the conditioning of society, or should I say the controllers, the way that women have been mind controlled. And like I said, it goes and it ties back to the beginning of this conversation, of how I said I've always felt there's an inkling where most of the mind control has been aimed at women. And by the way, those women affect us men. Do you not give birth to us? You talk about the patriarchy and all that. Well, we are your sons, don't you know? You're raising us. You have the most say in the way we're raised. What comes later is small in comparison, unless you've gone through some harrowing journey to transform yourself, like very few of us have, but most don't. And this is why society is in turmoil. The father is absent from the family. You know, it's like divorce rates and splitting up is so easy now. It's so easy. And we find that in most cases, in divorce rates, that it's the women leaving the men, not the other way around. You know, why is that? Why is that happening as a collective around the world? I should say most of the Western world anyway. Why is that? Do we even question those things and look at those things, with a magnifying glass and go, hold on, there needs to be this issue of the way we are so damaged, coming out generation after generation damaged. Why? And I think it all goes back to the battle between men and women, the conflict of the masculine and the feminine. And I think that's the ultimate. That's where it comes down. The crux of the mind control is turning the feminine against the masculine, and the masculine against the feminine. And it's been like that for thousands of years. How many resets we've had, I have no idea, but we have definitely gone through this loop for a long time. And again, it comes back to duality, and duality not being in harmony. If we look at it as a sort of bird's eye view, rather than, but the micro is the macro, the macro is the micro. Yeah. They're one and the same thing, as above, so below. Again, we go into that. So, and then that goes into the individual, the self. The self is a jewel. The self is a jewel. That's one thing I've realized. It is a jewel. I have a yin and yang of myself, but I can't be true to myself until I fuse those two together as a one thing. Not to mix them, because that's also causing chaos. We don't want chaos. We want an order within that chaos. And this is why you see is it on the dollar bill where they say order out of chaos? What's one of the Illuminati saying?
I think it is. Yes, that's right.
Yeah. Well, there's truth in that. They're telling you in your face. Yeah. Order out of chaos. Because if you leave chaos, which is the feminine, by the way, unchecked, and I don't mean the feminine as women. Again, this is not about a gender thing. No. This is not about genders. It's just purely about the energies. Right? And what they represent symbolically in our psyche. Right? Feminine is chaos, masculine is order. Too much order creates rigidity and no flexibility. So even the order, so not just to say order isn't bad as well, too much order is bad too. That's how you get dictatorships and communism and all these sort of things. Sorry, not communism, but dictatorships. Yeah. But on the other hand, you leave chaos and then you get communism. And we are more leaning in that side of things in the world today. That's where I see where we are in that sort of thing, where the chaos has just gone completely off the rails, and that chaos needs to be to find its other balance, its counterbalance, which is the order, the masculine. And that's why we see in the world today, like, most men are effeminate. They've been emasculated. Most men. You don't see that strong. You don't see that man of steel and velvet anymore. You just see velvet. No steel, no metal, right? And then you look at the woman, and she's full of steel. Right. I'm not saying every woman. I'm just saying that this is how in general, I'm speaking in general terms, where we are in the world today, in the Western world, especially. That's why the turmoil is there. But there is a battle. And my hope is that the women are able to integrate their animus within them and see that, if one woman wants to be an equal to a man, well, go and live in a man's world and see how that's like. Would you like it? Do you enjoy it? Do you want to be in the front lines of all the wars? Men have sacrificed themselves for their women and children. They don't look at the other side of I'm not saying that wars were good or anything. I'm just talking about the roles that we have played or have been puppeteered into playing.
Yeah.
And men have done the hard, backbreaking, laborious work, the fighting, in terms of the wars and so on. Yes, there's women in the army and stuff now, but still majority men. Sorry, still the majority. I'm not saying women can't fight, women can't do what men do. I'm not saying that. Of course they can. But I'm saying, integrate your animus. Then you will be seen as an equal. Same as the man. The man won't be seen as an equal to the woman either, without integrating the anima. Because how else are you meant to understand women or a woman, and to have a harmonious relationship with a woman where the family unit is intact and you're raising healthy human beings for once, who are awake to the agenda and who are going to be the creators of the world and the earth that we want to create, And that's where we've got to look. And this is why these conversations now are coming up, where, we're having these conversations and that's why I'm grateful to have someone like you who approaches me with these sort of deep subject matters, so we can lay them out and hash them out and have a closer look at it, or at least begin the dialogue, so that we can. And they're uncomfortable things. I don't know if this video will be banned because I've been talking about this, because it's dangerous talk. This is what they're afraid of. They're afraid of the women actually integrating their anima.
Yeah, this is it. And once you begin to understand about the whole mind controls, because that's what it is, mind control. It's been played on both sides, with the men, with the women, and yeah. So, and this is it, once, like we've spoken about, I think on the last podcast that we did, was that once we really truly know who we are, that would be it. It'd be game over, because they wouldn't be able to, they wouldn't be able to control. They just wouldn't be able to do, it is all about mind control, and it'd be over tomorrow. All of the crap that we, all the woo-woo stuff we see out in the world there, be over. That'd be it. That is the reality of it, but this is the thing, isn't it? We discuss this, we have these talks and stuff and that, but yeah, and then you begin to realize and understand why the human family is in such a chaotic state that it's in, and why we see what's going on, around the globe. It's just it saddens me, because again, I yearn for that real care, for that real, what it is to be truly caring to one another. We've lost all of that. I think we discussed it on another talk, I think on one of your planetary intelligence chats that we did, and and I read that in that book as well, and it was talking about how they, with the 7-year cycles, how they work with the children in a way that's completely different to how it is out there. It's a completely different way. And every 7 years they then do a ceremony with the children as they go up through their cycles, until they get to the physical, from the emotional to the physical, to the emotional, to the mental, to the physical. Yep. So I just, and it's completely different. it's a completely different other world, and that world fascinates me. It fascinates me, and I just think that's the world that I want. You know, that's my world.
Yeah.
You know,
And beyond the physical, we go into the spiritual.
yeah.
Again, it's actually the spiritual is what brings all of those three together.
That's it.
You
Yeah,
know.
yeah. It's a completely, yeah, it's a different way of living. It's yeah. You see that they really know and how to care for their children in a way that's completely different to what we've been put through, the sort of, I call it the meat grinder, basically, you know. And no wonder the world's in such a yeah, it's just a chaotic world that we're sort of witnessing around us, you know. So yeah,
but it needs to play out its role.
Of
It
course.
needs the order and the chaos needs to play out. And you know, I'm certain of it that we've been through this cycle before. Where we've had the falling away. You know, it doesn't matter who started it, whether it was men or women. You know, we're in this mess now. We're in this mess together because we need each other, regardless of what we you know, what we've been warring about. We need each other, whether you like it or not. And you know, if everybody turned into you know, this may be dangerous talk for me to say, but I want to say it anyway as an example. But if everybody was gay and everyone was lesbian, there'll be no humanity left, because there won't be any reproduction. Well, they say, oh yeah, well we'll use the we'll use artificial insemination and we'll do this and that. I'm like, no, because real beautiful children are born out of love, not born out of artificiality. So again, I'm kind of using these as extreme. They might be extreme examples to some people, some might be some hard things to hear for some people, but you know, I'm using them because we've got to look at everything and you know, what is natural, what is unnatural, how much do you question of your own even your sexuality that is not mind controlled, because you think and deem it to be natural. Is it? Have you questioned that? You know, because we live in a very perverted time right now, and you know, we know that the Romans are what we've been told who the Romans are part of that same empire that's been controlling, you know, and destroying Tartaria, or the ancestors, the Aryans. And by the way, which means the noble ones. It's not a race in terms of skin color. But yeah, the Arya, as Michael Tsarion calls them, the ones with noble traits, the noble ones, the race of nobility. So again, when are we going to return to that phase? And it's a long road, and we have to start somewhere so that our future generations can go back to living a longer, more fulfilling life, so that we also create the world that we had once, that can be resumed again. Because what is life? I mean, if we're going to jobs 9 to 5, and it's madness. To what point? To what end? To what achievement? What? So you can have your retirement when you're old and your body's withered. For what? Let me enjoy life while it's young and ripe. You know, if anything, when I'm older, I want to slow things down. You know, and start to study more and become more of a sage. But you know, sadly, we have, some of us have to do this work sooner. Otherwise, who will? You know, who's going to pick up the baton that the greats like Carl Jung has left us, and all the ones that have come before, you know, from, you know, the great ancestors, the Arya, the Druids, you know, who survived one of the biggest cataclysms and brought back the teachings to humanity. And sadly, it was perverted over time by the very same people we call the enemies of life. You know, who are they? They are also a mystery. Where did they come from? Are they extraterrestrial? You know, in the sense of extraterrestrial outside, you know, the walls of this plane, this realm. Are they? You know, are there realms below the earth? How much have we explored in the earth? Not really that much. How much have the oceans? Apparently, well, as they say, NASA tells us, you know, we explored more of space than the oceans.
Yeah.
You know, what is under our oceans? You know, is there things below, beyond the waters below? Where have these infiltrators come from to pervert our course here in the Midgarden? You know, but again, you know, we're uncovering these things, and that's what makes life so fascinating. I want things to be a mystery, and you know, that is the feminine. She is the mystery. She is the muse. She will always be the mystery. And we can always unravel more of that mystery within us. You know, what is it? What is the anima? What is that? What is the chaos? You know, we're labeling these things, but what is it really? And the same thing as the order. Why is order the way it is? Why is the world like that? Why is it set up in this dualistic way? And how can we use these tools, by knowing these things, to further our lives for the betterment of ourselves and the betterment of our community and mankind, you know?
Yeah. I mean, this is it, isn't it? It's there to, again, you know, it's there to serve a purpose. If you choose, because that's what it's about, isn't it? It's about you choosing, you know, or you can live your life in I'll say ignorance, you know. That is the choice, isn't it? Really, you have the choice. Whereas I choose to want to follow that path, you know, rather than the path of ignorance, you know. And yeah, it's exciting times, you know. Like you said, it's finding all these things and all these, you know. I get told some stories, you know. Some people think, oh, that's really crazy, you know. But I'd sort of sit there and think, why not? Why is that not possible? Why isn't time travel possible? Why isn't, you know, all these things, you know, that some people think, or flying even, you know, being able to fly, you know, why isn't any of this possible? You know, it's only by our own limitations that we put within ourselves. You know, anything's possible, you know. That's how I sort of see it, really.
Yeah.
You know,
but we're too busy to, they've kept us so busy for so long, chasing the you know, not even chasing, on the money wheel, the hamster money wheel, so to speak, that feeds them, by the way. And I'm also looking at the moment into you know, getting free from taxes, paying taxes and so on, and wiping out loans and debts, using, because like I said, I've said this before, all evil contains the seeds of its own destruction, as Michael Tsarian always says. So it's important that we see that it's there, and it's finding those seeds, or becoming those seeds, you know, because we have that evil within us too, and you know, it wouldn't exist without that not being within us. But it's recognizing it, and it's the same thing as the shadow. The shadow is evil when it's not integrated, but when it's integrated, it's no longer evil. It's no longer harmful. You know.
And
so
yeah. There's certain aspects there are, again, isn't there, as well? I mean, and I'm saying this, but I'm not fully grasping it, but I'll say it, that also there's benefits to the shadow as well once it's been integrated. But I can't go any further than that. But I sort of have a feeling within, knowing there are parts of the shadow that are there for
all of it,
for reasons as well, for reasons that it should be used in the right manner. It is, again, isn't it? Like saying, it's how it's all integrated.
All the shadow, the whole shadow, once every part of that shadow is good. once it's integrated.
Mm-hmm.
It's the unintegrated part of it that's the problem. That's what causes the split and the schism and the conflict and the harm to yourself and others. It's when it's integrated, because what you're doing ultimately when you integrate it, you notice it, you observe it, you realize it, you're aware of it, and you go, okay, now I understand these repressed parts of myself that I've been repressing. Why have I been repressing them? For what reason? Was it because of my mom, my dad, society, friends, whatever? And that's the importance of integrating it, because then you realize, okay, these things are, because I've been repressing these things, I accept them now as part of who I am. And that takes time to integrate, because when you start to accept them, you integrate them. And that takes time to realize those are all parts of yourself that's been repressed. And it's the repression that's the problem. It's when you put a lid on it, so to speak. It's like a pressure cooker. Eventually that lid's going to pop, you know, and it's not going to, it's going to be ugly. It's going to be a mess if you allow it to pop. So that's why it's important to kind of ease that pressure, integrate it into your world, ease that pressure, you know, open that pressure cooker lid, let the air out, let the steam out, you know, and then open the lid carefully. And then you have a lovely meal.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. It is. It's. This is all what it's about, isn't it? The experience. You know, that's what I'm learning. So, been a fascinating talk. Really fascinating talk. I've really enjoyed it, and you know, and just I hope the listeners will get something, you know, out of this talk tonight. You know, and I'm looking forward to the next time we come together. You know, brother, that'd be fascinating as it always is. You know, I love all the times that we spend together, you know, and the things that we talk about, and just how it seems to flow and stuff, you know. And I'm looking forward
always
to the
a pleasure.
Always look forward to doing a podcast, you know, with you. And I love sitting because I'm listening to you, you know, because you bring you know, stuff that I've not heard, you know, and that for me, you know, is a wonderful thing, you know, to be able to just sit there, just listen, and take things on board, you know. Some of the things, you know, that I might think, well, I've not heard that before, or, you know, or this before and stuff. So I find your work intriguing, and you know, as we discussed, wasn't it? I think was it Sunday or something. I think how long have you been doing it for now? Quite a while, isn't it?
What do you mean?
Your research, you were sort of like research.
Oh, my research. Oh, that's been going on. I mean, I started back in around 2005.
Wow.
And then I had a long hiatus. You know, I got into a relationship, and then after that ended, I kind of picked up from where I left, and I've never really put my voice out there or my face out there before, because I wasn't ready yet. My voice wasn't ready. Now it is, and that's why I've created the channel. And it started off being a venture with myself and Errol did in the beginning, but we've gone separate ways, I'm afraid. Well, I'm not afraid. more because, you know, I just don't, you know, for me, I've committed to the truth, but mostly not the truth, but to sanity, to sanity, because I don't want to go falling back into distortions of reality that I don't feel serve me, and where I've been before, where I've seen these distortion patterns before. So the channel is really about having great conversations like this, Kelvin. It's about bringing in different people from different perspectives, because how are you going to find your truth? Because I always say that it's your truth, nobody else's truth. It's your truth, and a truth that we can all share together in common, you know, in common brotherhood or sisterhood, or what's the word, as a family, as a human family. you know. And so yeah, when I started in 2005, you know, it's been a long and strenuous journey, and I've had to endure a lot of suffering to get to where I am, but I'm grateful for all of it, every bit of it. You know, I've had to suffer that much to get to the point where I have found my voice, you know, just like Little Mermaid. In the end, she finds a voice, you know, and it is that story about finding a voice, because your voice is unique, just like a thumbprint, a fingerprint. It's unique. But you know, most people go throughout their lives not having a voice to express with, truly a real voice, and using their voice for good. And you know, that's why I tend to spend a lot of time in silence, you know, and then when I do speak, hopefully most of the things I speak about are useful to others, and obviously to us. When we converse, we're both learning something, you know, and allows me to listen to you, with how you're reacting to what I'm talking about, and so on. But yeah, it's been a long journey. So I've been on this journey for a while, and what I want to do is impart that wisdom and that experience through my inner, because I've been focused more on the inner journey. There's everyone has a piece of the puzzle, and everyone has a different way of expressing it. Santos Bonacci has kind of uncovered the mysteries of the zodiac and syncretism, which is so important. Michael Tessarian's got into the psychology, you know, and you know, David Icke has just kind of hit that surface level stuff, you know. But it doesn't. Everybody's giving you something of those kind of the great, you know, Jordan Maxwell, who I want to give a lot of props to as well, who's uncovered a lot of depth within the conspiracy, so to speak, this conspiratorial realm, and many great thinkers. You know, I just hope that I can be one of those, human beings that can kind of further that and simplify their knowledge, because I think there's so much complexity, and that's what I feel like I'm here to do in a way. Is to bring back the simplicity of it, and hopefully I can bring it through my work as an artist, as a poet, and as a writer, and as a martial artist. You know, I've kind of fused those things, and I want to bring and simplify systems, not make them more complex, because it's only through simplification can the process be repeated again. You know, because then by simplifying things, you've simplified that, and then you can start to uncover more depths, because that's the thing with truth. And I am of the view of Krishnamurti that truth is not a fixed place. It's not because if it was a fixed place, then there will be a clear path to it, and everybody can get there. You know. And if that was the case, then everybody would be aware of what's going on in the agenda right now, because it's so plain as day. You have to be stupid not to see what's going on, you know, clear as day. And, you know, a lot of us have tried to wake up friends and family, and have lost friends and family as a result of this whole, pandemic unraveling, right? Yeah, a pandemic of hysteria and ignorance is what it is. But look, grateful to be here, grateful to have these conversations, Kelvin. You know, thank you so much for having me. Really appreciate it, brother.
I'm the same. I mean, I love, like I said, I just love spending time with you, you know, and love the conversations that we have, and you know, and it's just wonderful to just be able to sit down and just listen, and you know, for me to just sit back and just take all the wonderful stuff that you've accumulated over the years, which is great. But then there's also, you have that, but also I know that you have an experience as well, that inner experience. it's all part. It's all part.
It's all part. Yep.
And
Yep.
I'm so honoured that we've crossed paths, and I'm looking forward to doing more of these with you. So yeah, I'm just grateful. I'm very, very grateful that you're a part of my life, and I love you loads, brother. Love you loads.
Love is all there, brother. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you
yeah.
so much.
Yeah. So is there any sort of final words or anything you'd like to sort of finish off with before we
well, just that when I say that the truth is not a fixed place, it's really hard for people to kind of grasp it. But just to end on that note, you know,
okay.
Truth is not a fixed place, because the truth is relative to where you are as an individual. You see, you may look at the truth of what's presented in one way because of your experience, your lived experience, and the way you've accumulated knowledge. So from another person's perspective, the truth might look different. So this is why we you know, there is the truth, but the truth is nothing but more as a fact of life that you know, that our ancestors uncovered in the reality we live in, called the earth experience, you know, the human experience. And those are facts, and we have to learn to discern between fact and truth. And truth is arriving at somewhere that's, truth is more of a route, you know, it's a route to who you are. It's a route to a routing in that way, not a route as in the path, as a routing to who you are. And it comes back to the truth of yourself, because how you see the truth of the world is how you see the truth of yourself. And that's why I say it's not a fixed place, because it's relative to the consciousness that perceives it. So yeah, on that note, I'll just end there, and maybe our viewers can kind of reflect on that perhaps, and meditate on those things. But yeah, thank you very much for having me, brother. Much love.
Looking forward to the next one, and love to you too.